Hello students. So in class we learned about metals and nonmetals and how they could be named a little bit differently, especially if they are nonmetals when they react. And that leads to this lesson right here. So we're going to start by writing down what is a reaction, or what are the reactants and products, and then we'll get a little bit more into it. So I'm going to start by writing down reactants and what reactants are. So reactants are the substances that go into, I'll rewrite that. A reaction. In other words, they're kind of like the ingredients. So for example, we're just going to start with a very simple example of this. If we have flour, we have raw eggs, we have baking soda, and we have sugar. The products then, so they will be the substances that come out of a reaction. And you could see from the name it's the product, but here, just to really drive the point home, we're going to write finished product. Or the end result. So an example of this would be if you mixed all that up, maybe some of you could guess, but you're going to simply make something like a cake. All right, so those are some key concepts there. We have reactants, we have products. These are keywords that you should know, so make sure you take some time to understand which one are reactants, which one are products. We could also rewrite it a little bit below. So let's say we have the reactants. And then I'll write down the different things and I'll add them together. So sometimes the way that we write it down in science here is we use the plus sign. And then we don't write an equal sign, even though we do use a plus sign, but instead, to show this in chemistry, we use an arrow. And the arrow should lead us to what we'll have as the products. And that would be the cake. All right, so I hope that this gives you an idea of how we're going to write certain things down. We are going to use chemical names, but in this case, just to start us off, I'm using these as examples, okay? So one more thing that you could write down is if we were to turn this into a formula, the formula would be the reactants will give us the products. And let's put a box around that just so we could identify that quickly. So in this class right here, we are going to talk about a few different kinds of reactions. There's actually two that we're going to cover this year. And I'm going to start us off with the first one with notes here, and then we'll do the second one in class tomorrow as we continue on with this lesson. All right, so I'm going to scroll down, and the name of this reaction is a combination reaction. So a combination reaction is when two or more elements become one. The way that we're going to write this down, I'm going to use a few colors to just color code a little bit. But let's say if we have element A plus element B, then we are going to get, oh, that's a weird arrow there. All right, the product, which is element A and element B, like that. Okay, if you like to write that down with color or just give a little bit of a highlight, then you could do that. So the way that we do this, simply put, is, or like an example here, would be if we have a metal. It works especially if we have a metal plus a non-metal. And then that makes whatever the product is. So let's use one example here. So let's say that we have a metal like aluminum plus a non-metal like oxygen. So what does that become? The way that we write these names down, we should always write the metal first and then the non-metal after that. So we'll write down aluminum again here. And then the oxygen, if you remember the rule from yesterday's lesson, it should change to oxide. So this is when you use the rule where if you have a nonmetal, you change the ending to IDE. So we're going to emphasize this again for nonmetals. Change the ending to IDE. I'm going to put these there, or apostrophes. Okay. So that's what we're going to be working with. Now, what I'm going to leave you here is one example, and then we're going to do a little bit more of it tomorrow as well. But let's say we have something like potassium. And you combine it with nitrogen. What will it become? Go ahead and write that down. Tomorrow in the Do Now, we're going to go over this, and that should be it for now. All right. Have a good rest of your day.